हम लेके रहेंगे आज़ादी है हमारा आज़ादी. We have had been listening to this slogan for more than decades. More than 3 decades we have had been listening to it. But have you ever thought of the struggles and the sacrifices that have been made by the people of Kashmir? And a lot of women and men, they have had stood fast in this noble cause to advocate the right of innocent people. Today, our guest, Ms. Mushaal Mullick, she's going to shed light of what is happening in occupied Kashmir. We're going to ask her how she has come up and she stood firm and determined to live for the other people and to give them the rights they are deprived of. Thank you so very much, Mushaal, for joining us here. We were so very looking forward to meet you and to ask you, because being an activist is something people think of, but being a female activist is something we actually adore from the core of our hearts.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Okay. Mushaal, first of all, I would like to ask that since internationally and nationally, this issue is very prominent, one of the very prominent issues we are people they are facing in Kashmir. What do you think? Why over so many decades, even though we are fighting for it, there are so many talks, there are so many debates going on, people are practically coming up on roads, protests, and so many other things, but still this issue is not getting any proper solutions. What do you think? Why the resolutions or the other agreements passed in this regard are not able to come up with proper solutions?
It's one of the oldest pending conflict in the UN agenda, and it's very much intact. It has over a dozen resolutions seeking right to self-determination of the Kashmiri people, a purely indigenous movement and purely unarmed, defenseless movement. And you don't get this kind of example anywhere in the world of liberation movements. We can compare it with the Palestinian movement to a great extent, but not completely, because over there at least the leadership is not all incarcerated. International media, international aid can be present there or be allowed, and then you have a working airport, and you have some sort of defense system there to combat the Israelis. But the commonalities are that the way India is inspired, the current fascist India, by the Jewish settlements at the West Bank and trying to change the demography slowly and steadily. What Israel did over there and marginalized the Palestinians, made them stateless, refugees on their own land. It's replicating that in India, in Kashmir, and but it's doing it at a very, very fast pace.
Okay.
When you compare it with the Israelis, because at least you have some form of accountability there. You have some kind of international press going there, or some kind of news going out, or the leadership traveling the world to raise a voice, or international campaigns. But I don't know what's the bad luck with us, that we're somewhere on some other planet where you don't have any satellite access, and no international media, no international observers. UN Mogam office is not allowed to operate over there, and people are literally, dying every day. I mean, it's a hunting spree going on over there, and without any, voice being heard. It's a voiceless, I would say, a nation, and women issues, children issues, daily life issues, the way every right of a human being over there is being tarnished, is the pride, the honor, the dignity, which comes in the first clause of the Universal Human Rights Charter, that every human being around the world has this right to honor, dignity and freedom. But it is a pipe dream for Kashmiris. So it's an uphill, long journey, but the plus point is that the will, the determination of this nation, I mean, it's unflinching.
That's really very great. Mushaal, while I was going through different talks you have done so far, and your work, you're very optimistic that very soon rather, you're going to advocate this issue, and you are going to resolve this. You will come up with proper solution. You're very optimistic about it. Is there any focal point you always talk about or you raise whenever you talk about this issue internationally?
I'm positive, because when we go back in history, that the success of any movement, especially freedom struggles, depends on the will of the people, on their passion, on their commitment. And now this is the 7th generation under the Indian occupation. It's been over 7 decades of incarceration, highest military occupation, with the blackest laws, and with all forms of violence. Rape is a weapon of war, genocide, pellets, phosphorus shells, pepper gas, shooter guns, and whatnot, torture cells. But Kashmiri nation has been sustaining that all along, without any defense system, without even a bullet, without any weapon, and combating the highest occupation of the world. So that is one factor that keeps me optimistic, is that even the new generation, young infants or babies are actively participating with their mothers, with feeders in their mouth. And hats off to the entire nation for not, fearing or stepping even an inch behind or giving up. So that is very important factor for any movement anywhere, because that's what we've seen, witnessed in history. But yes, I may be positive, but at the same time, I'm very worried, because we have been, been struggling, been at the forefront, leading the movement. But now what's a fear factor is that India is trying to make our entire movement leaderless. And they have locked up our leadership. They've poisoned a few of them, including my husband, in jail. Yes. And they've been torturing them. Ashraf Sarai Sahab was one of our senior leader. He was poisoned in jail and he died, and he was not given medication on time. What happened with Said Ali Gilani Sahab, with his dead body, how they humiliated it, and they didn't even give the family the right to bury him according to its will. And right now that's like an army camp. So it's like, there's the extent of violence, or I think we need a new vocabulary for the various new forms of innovations in human rights violations. And this is shocking. The terminologies that have been invented, human shields, they're being used for, and their bodies are being mutilated, chemical weapons are being used on Kashmiris, and there's absolutely no stoppage, because the world around is not being given access to go and travel there. For almost I think a decade, no foreign delegation has visited Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So it's alarming, because I can't even give you an exact statistic of the number of atrocities post 5th August 2019 especially.
Mushaal, we would like to know about the women of Kashmir particularly. We living in an independent country, though they say that it's a conservative country, but you can see that we are enjoying a lot of perks here. What about those women who are brutalized and who are being raped and who are being suppressed? What are their dreams? What are their feelings? Have you seen them? Have you been there? On TV when we see, I really want to be there. What about them?
The girls of Kashmir are like any other girl around the world, with fairy tale dreams of, having a nice, secure, and it's the nature of a woman, of a girl. It's their, intrinsic nature is that, they want to have security, ghar mein, in their home, cozy, comfortable for their family, and also at the same time, and also to, excel in their careers, and they're mashallah, they're very, very intelligent, dynamic ladies, and I usually, try my best to give some sort of tribute to these women. I find them the bravest women on the planet, not because they're vulnerable, but because the way they are facing the challenges with so much courage, so much of bravery, and they're not just victims. And that's where they really get annoyed, when the world recognizes them as rape victims, or sexually harassed, or beaten up, or vulnerable, or crying, or wailing, or mourning. They don't want to be defined as that. And I think they have been understated, or not been, underestimated, the women of Kashmir. So I try my best to encourage them, to project the true face of the Kashmiri women as not just victims, they are warriors, they're freedom fighters, and they are the breadwinners. They have the burden of being,
Because they've lost
you
their
know,
men.
yes, it's not just that, it's they're the mothers, they're the fathers, because most of the men over there, they have died, been killed, martyred, or they're missing for years and years, and they have.
Just tell us, really guide us. Sitting here, can we do something for those women?
Of
We
course.
feel for them.
Of course, we can do a lot for them. We can encourage them. We can raise a voice for them. We can ask the world for their rights, especially the UN. According to, I'm very passionate about 13425 UNGA resolution, which calls for equal participation of women of conflict zones to decide a peace-building resolution. Because in the end, obviously, no matter how many wars take place, God forbid, I hope we don't have another. And even if it does, I don't want to say, but even if it's a micronuclear stunt, I mean, the whole world will die down. I mean, 2/3 of the world population, because it's not just going to be an ordinary exchange of the LOC to be nuclear. So the ramifications of this kind of ongoing dispute will aggravate to such an extent that the whole world would regret that they didn't stand up for the Kashmiri people. So it's very important that we advocate peace building, peacemaking modules, and also encourage the women of Kashmir to become a party to any solution of this issue, because they're also equally victims, and women and children are the most vulnerable also in any war zone, in any conflict zones, be it Kashmir, be it Palestine, be it Afghanistan, anywhere, Iraq, anywhere. So that's where they need a place in leadership roles, and that's what I'm really passionate about. And I think without any, I mean, just stepping out of your home, the journey every day, I mean, it's just a challenge for a Kashmiri woman. If she's a widow, a half widow, it's a new definition gifted to us by the Indian occupation. Young widow or a half widow who has no idea where her husband is. Is he in some torture cell? Have they killed him? Have they thrown him in some unmarked grave? And the way, the journey of searching for that invisible life partner, or a father for a half orphan, or even for a born orphan whose parent, father or mother died during the time of delivery. So these are, the pain that they go through, and they're like rocks. I mean, for a married woman, having her life partner and having young children, looking after them, and if you're not fully equipped or educated, or do not have a job, or do not have vocational training, and suddenly, you have this huge challenge that your earning hand has disappeared or has been martyred. So what to do? Crying children, elderly people in the home. So then they walk out of their homes in search for jobs with documents in their hands, and every few steps you have the Indian army sitting there abusing them. Even the way that they glare and stare at us, that is, I would call that rape, because they just eat you up, the way they stare and the comments that they pass. And then if you go up to them and you ask them about their loved ones, to an army camp, or you go to police station, or you go to the courts, the kind of harassment that you face, not just by the Indian army, but also by the Indian intel agencies also over there. The way they intimidate the families of disappeared persons, or of victims of martyred people, asking for justice. So it's such a complicated life that they're going through, and it's not just for a day, for a few years. It's happening from one generation being transferred to another, and it's ongoing, and it's never ending, and still they are not giving up. So I think it's something where even I get, my head starts spinning, that God has given me incredible strength of not surrendering before the nefarious designs of the Indian state. And they're not giving up.
I'm compelled to ask a question. We will not put it on air if you think, it shouldn't have been asked, but I always think about it, and I really want to have this opportunity. Since you are the real person, one can ask this question. You know what happened in America, how the invaders, they they just wiped out the Red Indians. Now Americans live there. The indigenous Red Indians are nowhere. God forbid. I hope this won't happen in our Kashmir. Like, they are buying land, the Hindus are buying land, and they are. Please, I hope you understand my.
No, I don't mind the question. It's part of history, and it's the what do you call the brutal truth of reality of mankind. Of changing the demography of.
How do you say that?
It's so shocking because this is something which we cannot combat on our own.
Yeah.
We've been combating their occupational forces, the draconian laws, their puppet elections. We've been doing boycott over there. We've been protesting over there. Our leadership has, been at the forefront. It's not like they've been wearing those, those security jackets or bulletproof jackets and bulletproof cars and protecting themselves and letting the public get shot. They're at the forefront, their families sacrifice. So it's not a problem of the leadership, it's not the problem of the masses. But in this case, how do we fight back? Because India has illegally, through a presidential order, through a stroke of a pen, has made Kashmiri stateless. And they have surpassed UN resolutions, they've surpassed international laws, humanitarian laws. Yes, and that's what I'm saying, that they have violated international treaties, Geneva Conventions, and also bilateral treaties, and at the same time their own Indian constitution. They have surpassed that. So right now we have complete, technically speaking, in Kashmir is jungle law. It's not occupation, it's jungle law. It's complete plundering. As you gave that example, it's quite similar to that. But I think Modi has crossed even Hitler to, the way he is quite brazenly, he's just, ignoring all norms and gone, because any form of extremism, be it Hindutva, be it in any religion, or be it in any philosophy, RSS, if you look at its history, it's been involved in various kinds of terrorist activities, Mecca bombings, church bombings, forced conversions of Christians, of targeting the Dalits, of genocide of Gujarat Muslims, and now what's happening with the Sikhs, the farmers, and how they're making them stateless, the Bangladeshis over there. So this policy of Akhand Bharat is going to extend beyond Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Their goal is not just that it's going to go Azad Kashmir, Pakistan, they want to target a part of China, go ahead to Russia, China. They think the whole world belongs to Akhand Bharat. So he has the nuclear command. So how do we combat this president? Because it's the latest form of war. Without any bullet, right, without any explosion, they've made us stateless. Like, imagine sitting here and then suddenly it's been announced that you're no more a Pakistani and you have no identity at all. Right. And you have the Indians or an enemy, they've occupied their homes, they're grabbing your property documents, your voter rights. And in a span of 2 years only, post 5th of August, after the double siege, the double lockdowns and curfews, we witnessed India allotting over 50 lakh domiciles to Indians. And if they keep continuing with this and nobody stops them, the world bodies does not impose sanctions upon them or demilitarize or de-weaponize or hold Modi and the state accountable, then I'm afraid that in the next 1 year, this will form into a mini India, a mini Indian colony, and Kashmiris, their population will be marginalized, and we will have more Indians, more saffronization. And then if plebiscite is conducted, how do we fight that? That is the biggest challenge. And that's where the international community must intervene, must come in to stop India, because they are a party to the dispute.
When you talk about international community, then what is the role of UN?
Yes, UN is the main party to the UN resolutions. It's the UN, Kashmiris being the principal party, India and Pakistan. They're all signatories, and no one can unilaterally change the entire status of this dispute the way India is doing. And India kind of got lucky that after 5th of August, when the whole world was out and there were no takers of this move by India, people were on the roads internationally, press coverage, Guardian, Washington Post, various think tanks around the world, the permanent 5 countries. We didn't see anyone endorsing this act openly or closed doors. But when the tempo was coming to pace, we witnessed on March 2020 a lockdown around the world when the global focus shifted from Kashmir to COVID, because the whole world was engulfed in this invisible fight against an enemy, which is COVID-19. There was no vaccine. So India, instead of, fearing God's wrath or whatever virus that has shook the world, instead of, becoming more humane, they took that as an advantage, as a tool, and they started committing more and more genocide, more killings, more casos, more fake operation counters over there, and they started issuing domiciled state subjects to non-Kashmiris and giving them property rights and inviting Indian investors over there to buy land of a disputed territory. Because if you go to Azad Kashmir, no Pakistani is allowed to get voter rights or to buy land there, because they protected the demography of that land till plebiscite is conducted. So I don't know how we will combat this challenge. So that's where the UN, the entire responsibility falls upon them. In South Sudan, if they could send 12,000 peacekeeping forces, then why not in Kashmir, East Timor? So this is not just linked with the UN resolutions for Kashmir. This is direct violation of 4th Geneva Convention of a disputed territory changing the demography. And to stop that, I have given various suggestions to the Pakistani regime over here as well.
Mushaal, when we were talking about, a lot of different terminologies related to the torture women they are facing in Kashmir, there was one word, half widowed. That was something, half widow. I was, shocked to, read it somewhere, and then I started researching for it, and I came to know that the women, they never know whether they are widow or where is the husband and where is the husband. Whether she's going to have her husband back, or this is an ambiguous state in which the women they are in. And unfortunately, such women, I was just thinking that whenever a woman is deprived of her breadwinner person, a husband, or the major parasol, apart from that, she has lost whosoever was bringing in final income. Now, how will she claim land or other property, assets or other things, whatever was belonging to her husband, because she's not aware of whether he's alive or not. So how they are able to make that whole circle go, not only emotionally but financially as well?
Yes, the legal issues that families of missing persons
because
face.
Legally you cannot say the person is dead now,
because they don't have a death certificate.
Exactly.
And their bank accounts or property cannot be transferred to the widow. So it's a very frustrating situation, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in all forms, the challenges that they face. And naturally then, in such circumstances, post-traumatic stress disorder is very high, because you're going through trauma, you're going through complete panic attacks. And in my own marriage of 12 and a half years, we have spent 60 days together. And I'm practically a single parent, or I'm lucky that I live with my mother, and she supports us. But the financial issues related to such conflicts, when your husband is I have not spoken to him for 2.5 years, and I haven't seen him for 7.5 years, and practically living like a half widow. Anytime any news can come. And I remember in 2015 there were strong rumors in summers of 2019 that for almost a week that he's not alive, he's been tortured. And yes, he was being tortured those days as well in the death cell, and nobody was confirming the news. And phone lines were shut in Kashmir. And I don't know how I spent those days and nights, and even till date, having sleepless nights or nightmares. And it's very abnormal that for any victim or person that when I compare it with other political leaders or other freedom fighters, or with Nelson Mandela or Yasser Arafat, because we are leading a liberation movement. At least their families were given access to meet their loved ones, even if they were in death cell, they were imprisoned. Even Benazir Bhutto, she would meet Zulfikar Ali Bhutto.
Exactly.
She would go to jail to meet him during his last days. Yeah, but he was hanged. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was a very tall leader of Pakistan. But Nelson Mandela, his wife used to go there. He used to have council access. Even Yasser Arafat and many others, Martin Luther King. But somehow, even in Kashmir right now, Asian Rabi Sahiba, she's in Tihar jail. Her son is living here and she's in a very bad shape. And she's asthmatic in Tihar. But her son is studying in Islamabad. Ahmed, he still is lucky enough to hear her voice, can communicate with her on the phone. And then you have Shabir Shah Saab, another Hurriyat leader. He's in Tihar and in a barrack, and his family has access to him, like video conferencing or some form of communication. But I don't know why the Indians hate our family so much that there's not even just a moment of humility or kindness or following the basic the basic fundamental rights of rights of prisoners, which India is a signatory to. And we have unfortunately not been given no legal access for him, and he cannot talk to his family nor see his young little daughter or his wife. And it's very strange, the kind of challenges that we face. Sometimes, yes, I am in trauma. I would admit that, because you have no idea when you will talk to your loved one or when you will meet them, even if they're jailed.
So the pain is very, and at the same time,
we're not just victims, we're leading the movement. So I have to be extra strong in public eye. I have to, because I have to give hope to the women, the children of Kashmir. I have to take their voice internationally. So it's a heavy burden on my shoulders, and that's where my mom, she's, I would say she's an iron lady. She's a rock behind me and my sister, and we run an organization, Peace and Culture, which main goal is to, talk about UN resolutions, peace building, peacemaking, and we go internationally trying to project the soft face of Kashmir, the cultural side, and how peace-loving they are. And they have nothing against India. They just want to be free, which every human being, has a right to sovereignty. So I think the family support that I get, I'm lucky that I have strong women in the house, but it's a very long journey for any Kashmiri family. So I can understand the pain of a Kashmiri woman, of a half widow, of a widow, but I can't wail, I can't cry outdoors. I did it once and I got a message from Yasin. He was jailed in Jammu jail at that time. And he sent a message across that I don't want to see my wife ever to break down in front of the media or in the public, because India will have a great ball of a time, enjoying your tears. So you have to be strong. So I think I'm trying to act stronger, and I think I'm trying to practice.
So you have set an example for others to stand up and stay determined. Mushaal, I just wanted to ask, there's a girl studying in London School of Economics, belonging to a very accomplished family, an artist, love for nature and love for colors and everything. She finally landed in Kashmir. How it all happens? We would love to know that.
I think one of my childhood favorite songs of U2 was Love is Blindness. And I used to listen to that a lot, and I think that song kind of inspired me way too much, and I fell in love, madly in love with a hero, with a real life hero, and I would call him the bravest man on this planet. The way he has, been fighting challenges, not just for his own personal life or personal happiness. He is facing all these challenges for his nation, and he's leading a life larger than, his goals are larger than life. And what turns me on about him is his fearlessness and completely selfless love towards his people. And yeah, he's very charming, he's very handsome, though he has been tortured since his teenage days, facial paralysis, and every part of his body has witnessed third-degree torture from the Indian state. I've seen scars all over his body. Yet, he's very charming and handsome for me, for my eyes, and I feel lucky. But yes, when you're in love, you have to prove it. Maybe in our case, I have to prove it an extra mile.
It's a beautiful love story as well.
We really salute your resilience. Really, and you are epitome of courage for all women. And you as a couple are an example for everyone. Would you like to give any message to women or to mankind?
Yes, I would love to. I think it's Kashmiris are also human beings, you know. We want to be considered humans. That's our only demand from the world. And to all the loving people out there who are giving us their prayers, their support, their best wishes, and I think just keep it going, keep being our voice, and keep supporting us.
Encouraging Kashmiri people. And the most
Vulnerable segments of this world, of society, we need to become their voice. We need to look around. We need to empower. And I think the responsibility falls upon the empowered women of the world. If they want to support humanity, they should support the most vulnerable segments of society, especially those women who do not have a voice, who do not have those opportunities, who are brave, who are beautiful, but they are disturbed, or they are down, or they do not see any light in their lives. We need to shed that light, and forget our own worries. And once we start becoming a face or becoming a voice for the voiceless, I think the meaning of our life is,
Will be changed.
will be changed, and yes, it will become worthwhile. Our life will become worthwhile. We will forget our own inner worries and our challenges when we start supporting people who absolutely have no idea where to go, who are that vulnerable, and be it Kashmiri women, Palestinian women, or people around the world. Thank you.
Golden words from an Iron Lady. We are really, you have mesmerized everyone. So there's a pin drop silence in the room. Nobody can ever believe there's so many people sitting all around. Mushaal, being a woman, and especially being a woman who is strong, who is confident, and who can raise her voice to the extent that even internationally people have to listen to what she's saying, you must have faced some obstacles as well, or criticism must have come to your way. How have you handled all that?
I think criticism is part of success, I believe. If they criticize you, that means you're irritating someone, or you are leaving some sort of impact. So I think we should move against the tides.
Male-dominating society, I mean,
On the whole, it's been very positive. But yes, when I would visit Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, going from Pakistan, going from a sovereign, secure nation, and from a family where we've never seen such kind of challenges or violence, because I'm a daughter of a professor, intellectual background, my mother's a politician. We've always respected each other and, talking about humanity, and been very passionate about Kashmiris, Bosnian children, Afghani children during our childhood. Our parents would always encourage us to support them, to become friends with people of conflict, their families, to make them feel at home in Pakistan, because we used to have a lot of camps in Islamabad of refugees. In the late 90s, Pakistan has always been very welcoming towards countries that have faced war-torn areas and been homeless. They've always welcomed them. So in such a background, such an upbringing, I think going to Kashmir and being interrogated, being inquired, being abused, being beaten up by the Indian forces was something new for me. I was not prepared for it. And especially when they attacked my
husband?
My baby. No, Yasin has been attacked since his childhood days, which is very painful, obviously.
And you knew it?
Of course, I was well aware of the situation. But when I saw my child being body searched and examined and tearing her pampers by the Indian forces as if she had hidden some bomb in her pamper, and that examining and pulling her hair of a 2-year-old baby when we were visiting my husband in Central Jail, I could tolerate whatever was happening with my husband, with me, or with my in-laws, even with my mother. She fainted due to the pepper gas shelling in our home, and our windows broke. I tolerated everything, but when it happened to my daughter, I felt so vulnerable. I felt so vulnerable. I felt so humiliated that, oh my God, I'm a parent and I have to witness my child being examined sexually like this. I mean, tearing her pamper, pulling her hair of a baby. Even a baby is not secure over here. And when I moved back to Pakistan, when my visa expired, I shared the story with my mother and with my sister, and they were like, no, I mean, you are not going to cry. I mean, you have to become a support for your husband, for all the women and the children of Kashmir now. You have been a victim, your daughter has been a victim, but you are very blessed that you are the first Pakistani public figure in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir after marrying a Hurriyat leader. And the masses, their hopes with Pakistan, they're sky high, so you have to become that bridge. So stop crying, stop being a typical girl, with those dreams that my husband's locked up and we're unsafe and getting, fearful. Become that strength. So I think that's the time, that was a turning moment for us, and we established an organization, Peace and Culture. And since that day onwards, we haven't taken a break for even a single moment, and we've been traveling all over the world, speaking about victims firsthand, because the world is interested in meeting the leadership, meeting the victims, not through paper or photographs only, but by having access. So that kind of opportunity I have, and I try my level best to do complete justice to that, be it meeting the UN Secretary General, the UNGA President Mr. Walken, the OIC Kashmir Envoy, the OIC Ministers Delegation, Norway's Prime Minister, former Prime Minister also, Mr. Mahathir, various world leaders, Australian senators, European MEPs, the European Parliament, the APPG head of the British Parliament, Kashmir Committee, various other Kashmir working groups in various parliaments around the world. So I think that access that I have, I'm trying my level best to do complete justice to it and to portray the true voice of the people of Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir to the world.
Lovely, very well said. It was lovely meeting you, knowing you, and the remarkable work you are doing for the people of occupied Kashmir. The most, the touched moment is that throughout my talk, you were very positive, and the energies we all have got from you. I mean, we are looking forward that one day we all will be coming to see you in Kashmir, and we are going to explore all the beauty of Kashmir together.
Talking to you is such a catharsis. It has been really such a catharsis. Because sitting here, we only watch TV, and we, only this media, through the media we come to know what's happening there. So, and also in you, there's a ray of hope, whatever you are doing. So thank you very much, really.
To conclude, this platform of incredible women is always with you. We are part and parcel of whatever you are doing. Please, anything via words, by raising a voice or an action you require from all the ladies around us, we are very much with you, and we would love to stand by your side with the same determination as you are doing it. Thank you so very much. We all love you.
Thank you. Thank you.